Treaty with the Cherokee, April 27, 1868. Ratified, June 6, 1868. Supplemental article to a treaty concluded at Washington City, July 19, AD 1866. Ratified with amendments, July 27, AD 1866. Amendments accepted, July 31st, AD 1866, and the whole proclaimed August 11th, AD 1866, between the United States of America and the Cherokee Nation of Indians. Whereas under the provisions of the 17th article of a treaty and amendments thereto made between the U.S. and the Cherokee Nation of Indians and proclaimed August 11th, AD 1866, a contract was made and entered into by James Harlan, Secretary of Interior, on behalf of the U.S. of the one part, and by the American Immigrant Company, a corporation chartered and existing under the laws of the state of Connecticut of the other part. Dated August 30th, AD 1866, for the sale of the so-called Cherokee Neutral Lands in the state of Kansas, containing 1,800,000 acres, more or less, with the limitations and restrictions set forth in the said 17th article of said treatment as amended, on the terms and conditions therein mentioned, which contract is now on file in the Department of Interior. And whereas Orville H. Browning, Secretary of Interior, regarding said sale as illegal and not in conformity with said treaty amendments thereto, did, on the 9th day of October 1867, for and in behalf of the U.S., enter into a contract with James F. Joy of the city of Detroit, Michigan, for the sale of the aforesaid lands on the terms and conditions in said contract set forth, and which is on file in the Department of Interior. Whereas, for the purpose of enabling the Secretary of Interior, as trustee for the Cherokee Nation of Indians, to collect the proceeds of sales of said lands and invest the same for the benefit of said Indians, and for the purpose of preventing litigation and of harmonizing the conflicting interests of said American Immigrant Company and of the said James F. Joy, it is the desire of all the parties and interests that the said American Immigrant Company shall assign their said contract and all their right, title, claim, and interest in and to the said Cherokee Neutral Lands to the said James F. Joy, and that the said Joy shall assume and conform to all the obligations of said company under their said contract is hereinafter modified. It is therefore agreed by and between Nathaniel G. Taylor, Commissioner on the part of the U.S., and Louis Downing, H.D. Reese, William P. Adair, Elias C. Woodnot, J.A. Scales, Archie Scraper, J. Porm Davis, and Samuel Smith, commissioners on the part of the Cherokee Nation of Indians, that an assignment of the contract made and entered into on the 30th day of August, A.D. 1866, by and between James Harlan, Secretary of Interior, for and in behalf of the U.S. of the one part and the American Immigrant Company, a corporation chartered and existing under the laws of the state of Connecticut of the other part, and now on file in the Department of Interior, to James F. Joy of the city of Detroit, Michigan, shall be made in that said contract as hereinafter modified, be and the same as hereby, with the consent of all parties, reaffirmed and declared valid, and that the contract entered into by and between Orville H. Browning for and behalf of the U.S. of the one part and James F. Joy of the city of Detroit, Michigan of the other part, on the 9th day of October, AD 1867, and now on file in the Department of Interior, shall be relinquished and cancelled by the said James F. Joy or his duly authorized agent or attorney, and the said first contract is hereinafter modified, and the assignment of the first contract and the relinquishment of the second contract are hereby ratified and confirmed. Whenever said assignment of the first contract and the relinquishment of the second shall be entered of record in the Department of Interior. And when the said James F. Joy shall have accepted said assignment and shall have entered into a contract with the Secretary of Interior to assume and perform all obligations of said American Immigrant Company under the said first named contract is hereinafter modified. The modifications hereinbefore mentioned of said contract are hereby declared to be: 1. That within 10 days from the ratification of the supplemental article, the sum of $75,000 shall be paid to the Secretary of Interior as trustee for the Cherokee Nation of Indians. 2. That the other deferred payments specified in said contract shall be paid when they respectively fall due, with interest only from the date of the ratification hereof. It is further agreed and distinctly understood that under the conveyance of the Cherokee Neutral Lands to the said American Immigrant Company, with all beneficial interest therein, as set forth in said contract, the said company and their assignees shall take only the residue of said lands after securing to actual settlers the lands to which they are entitled under the provisions of the 17th article and amendments hereto of the said Cherokee Treaty of August 11th, 1866. and that the proceeds of the sales of said lands so occupied at the date of said treaty by actual sellers shall inure to the sole benefit of and retained by the Secretary of Interior as trustee for said Cherokee Nation of Indians, in testimony whereof the said commissioners on the part of the U.S. and on the part of the Cherokee Nation of Indians have hereunto set their hands and seals at the city of Washington this 27th day of April, A.D. 1868. N.G. Taylor, Commissioner on behalf of the U.S., Delegates of the Cherokee Nation, Lewis Downing, Chief of Cherokees, H.D. Reese, Chairman of Delegation, Samuel Smith, William P. Adair, J.P. Davis, Elias C. Boudna, J.A. Scales, Archibald Scraper, Cherokee Delegates, in presence of H.M. Watterson, Charles E. Mix.